is sending me paper letters and preparing them at my house while I'm away. I don't know what to do with it. I had rented a small one-bedroom unit on the 4th floor of an old brick walk-up in a quiet neighborhood of Pittsburgh. The kind of place with faded wallpaper in the hall and stair rails that creaked like they had a memory of every hand that ever touched them. Nothing special, just a short-term rental while I worked on a contract project. But the apartment directly across the hall, for B, caught my attention from day one. There was no name on the mailbox, no number plaque. Just a pair of worn slippers always neatly placed on the doormat and, sometimes late at night, the sound of soft movement, creaking floorboards, the faint dragging of something heavy like an old chair being gently shifted. I never once saw anyone enter or leave. At first, I ignored it, but then I began to notice stranger things. Some mornings, the hallway smelled faintly of burnt wood, like someone had been lighting old pine in a fireplace. And once, just as I passed by the door, I caught a narrow band of golden light slipping from underneath it, not the glow of a lamp or screen, but something warmer, flickering, like firelight, a candle, maybe, or an all-lantern. One evening, I came home and found a yellow envelope on my doormat. No stamp, no return address. Just my full name written in ink, neat and slanted, like from a fountain pen. Inside was a torn-out piece of a black and white newspaper, a photo. It showed the front of my building, but the details were all wrong. The bricks looked newer, the trees in front weren't yet grown, and there was a 1966 date at the bottom, no caption, just the image and the year. I left it on my kitchen table, thinking maybe it was a prank. But the next night, another envelope arrived. This time, it contained a faded train ticket, Amtrak, with a departure date of November 8, 1966, from Penn Station to a rural Pennsylvania town I'd never heard of and couldn't find on any modern map. I asked around the building. An older man downstairs said Furby had been sealed for years. A younger woman on the 2nd floor told me she thought the apartment was used for storage by the property management. But I'd been hearing footsteps, soft, measured, like someone barefoot and slow. By the 3rd week, I left an envelope of my own outside for be just a blank card with a simple thank you inside. I didn't expect anything to come of it. The next night, my door was slightly ajar when I returned. Nothing was missing. On the contrary, there was a cup of hot tea waiting on my kitchen counter, and 2 cookies that tasted exactly like the ones my grandmother used to bake in Ohio when I was a kid. The following morning, the door to 4B stood wide open. I hesitated, then stepped inside. The apartment was empty, dark, no furniture, no slippers, no scent. Just for blank walls and a heavy silence that seemed to swallow the creak of my shoes. Dust coated everything. It looked like no one had been in there for decades. Lying in the middle of the floor was one last envelope. Inside was a photograph. It was me standing right outside for B, same clothes, same pose, only. My face was blurred, like I had turned away a split second before the picture was taken. On the back of the photo, November 8, 1966, I moved out 2 days later. Months passed before I came back. The building had been cleaned up, fresh paint, polished floors. But the door to 4B was still bare, still closed. A new tenant in my old unit told me that the place across the hall had been sealed since the Reagan era. And yet, when I passed that door in the quiet, I could swear I still heard the faintest sound of footsteps. And the slow, rhythmic creak of a rocking chair. I was kidnapped and held for 5 days and then they just let me go. What is going on in this world? It happened on Tuesday, a most ordinary day, no rain, no news, no signs. I was driving home from work, as always, on foot, 2 blocks away, then left, past a closed grocery store, and through a narrow courtyard, which was a shortcut for me. It all happened in 20 seconds. First, I heard quick footsteps behind me. I didn't have time to look back. Someone grabbed me by the shoulder, pushed me sharply against the wall, and I felt a prick in my neck. Something like a needle. Almost immediately, my head went dark. My legs became weak. The last thing I remember is the noise of a plastic door and the smell of dust. I woke up in a closed room, small, no windows. The light was barely on, something like a basement. My hands were tied with a belt, not a rope. My mouth was not taped, but my throat was dry, as if I had been breathing through a dusty filter all night. My head was buzzing, either from the blow or from the substance. I didn't scream, just listening. There was someone else there, someone in another room. I heard footsteps. Quiet, barefoot, then the sound of a plastic bottle. Someone was drinking. A minute later, the door opened. I saw a face, a man, about 40 years old, calm, not even angry. He looked at me like someone looks at a bag of tools, without emotion, but with some strange determination. He didn't say a word. He checked the knots on my hands, turned on the recorder. I heard him say, Subject 2, fixation time 2043, no resistance. Work according to instructions, subject, he left. I don't know how much time passed. There was no clock in this room, the light hardly changed. I tried to free my hands, moved my wrists, rubbed them on the edge of the pipe. It hurt until they bled, but I continued. Sometimes he came back, gave water. Food, just rice or crackers, didn't say a word. Once he put an old newspaper in front of me and said only, read it out loud. I started, he wrote it down. 5 minutes later, he left. On the third day I realized, this is not robbery, not blackmail. No one asked for money. No one looked for contacts. The phone did not ring. They just kept me, as an exhibit, as part of an experiment. On the fourth night I heard him talking to someone, on the phone or the radio. The next one is not suitable. This one may be suitable. Memory is stable, reactions are slow, voice is even double quotes. What was he talking about? On the fifth day, everything changed. I woke up from complete silence. No one, not even footsteps. The door was left ajar. It was scary to run. I didn't know if it was a trap or a chance. But the fear of being left was stronger. I got out, across the corridors, a staircase. Across the staircase, a door, an ordinary entrance. The smell of dirty carpets and old soap, I went out and found myself on a quiet street. Early morning, no one was looking, no one knew. I did not go to the police. Not because I did not want to, because I could not. What will I say? I was kidnapped, held without a purpose, released just like that. I did not know who he was. I did not see the house number. I did not hear a single name. 3 days later, I changed my number, deleted social networks, moved to another apartment. And only a week later I realized I did not lose anything, no things, no organs, no memory. But the feeling that I became someone else remained. Now, when I walk down the street and hear quick steps behind me, I no longer think that it is a passerby. I look, I listen, and almost always, I turn around.